I want to welcome our participants. I see people joining the meeting, and I wanted to tell you thank you for being here. My name is Elaine Kramer, and I'm a community planner with Pashik MTR, a local planning firm. And I'm here with Jim Pashik, our firm's founding partner, and my colleague, Heather Fuller, as well as Tess DeYoung from Connect, the Congress of Neighboring Communities here in Pittsburgh. And I am thrilled to welcome everybody to this webinar, and I'm going to share a screen for a second and start showing you all some stuff. So you should be able to see me and hear me and see an informational slide on the screen while everybody gets settled in. You can look over this and learn a little bit about the meeting. And once again, welcome. We're really glad you're here, and we appreciate your interest in Churchill Borough's future, in this planning and visioning project that we're embarking on, and especially for this participating in tonight's webinar, which we think is going to be really interesting. We'll be introducing the panelists in just a moment. Tonight's webinar is about the topic sense of place. So I want to begin by showing Churchill Borough's zoning map. Everybody see that okay? Panelists, can you give me some feedback?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. So we're here tonight because Churchill Borough decided to undertake a community planning and visioning project regarding the future of the borough's C1 commercial district. And that is this area right here in the light blue. In this map, R means residential and C means commercial. So many people may know of this as the former Westinghouse R&D site. And this visioning project has the purpose of asking residents what you would like to see happen at this site in the future. The visioning project is an outgrowth of Churchill's 10-year comprehensive plan. Back in 2016 and 17, Churchill, Monroeville, and Wilkins all began developing their 10-year, their long-term strategic plan, which in Pennsylvania is called a comprehensive plan. And that was adopted by all three communities in 2018. And then one recommendation from that plan was that Churchill would proactively plan for what could happen at this area, this large part of the community, which has had little use for many, many years now. So that comprehensive plan begat this visioning initiative that we're working on tonight. So I want to take just a minute to tell you how tonight's webinar fits into the whole planning and visioning project overall. There is a 6-part webinar series like the one that you're listening to now that has a panel discussion, and there will be a second one tonight after this, and then 4 more on subsequent, 2 per night on subsequent Wednesdays. And these discussions are designed to help all residents learn more about the possibilities of new development in the C1 district and to become engaged in the visioning process. Besides this, many of you may know that there is a questionnaire out for residents of the community that you can fill out. And if you want more information about that, you can go to churchillborough.com. Now, for tonight's meeting, I wanted to let you know a little bit more about this webinar. And so here's just a few logistics. This webinar is being recorded for later viewing, and all 6 webinars will be posted on via churchillborough.com. So you can, if you join this meeting late or have to leave it early or can't make all of the meetings, all 6, you can view them later. The agenda here shows how we'll divide up the time at each of the meetings. They'll all have this same time, general time frame. You will be able to submit questions for our panelists. And to do that, you can activate your toolbar, your Zoom toolbar, which looks like this, the black bar you see in the middle of the screen. And you can click on that Q&A and then type in your question, and we'll get to it, and then you have to hit submit or send or something. And then we'll collect those, and my colleague Heather is going to be monitoring those, and then we'll look for the ones that rise to the top, and we'll get to as many as we can, especially the ones that are posed by multiple people. We also wanted to mention that we've taken precautions to prevent Zoom bombing. You may have heard of this. It's inappropriate interruptions. In the unlikely event that something like that does happen, we will end the meeting immediately. So if you see something like that eyeball pop up on your screen, that means that we've made the decision to end the meeting. The hosts have made the decision to terminate the webinar. So we feel that that's very, very unlikely. We are actually expecting and looking forward to a really interesting webinar. So to get started, I wanted to show you two more maps to get everyone oriented. I don't know if everybody on this webinar is from Churchill, but whether you are or not, this might be interesting to you. What you can see on this map is Churchill Borough, surrounded by its communities, neighboring communities, Penn Hills, Wilkinsburg, Forest Hills, Wilkins, and then farther out, Pittsburgh and Monroeville. You can see some important features of the community. There's the Parkway, the Edgewood Country Clubs over here, the schools over here. The little yellow lines, which I hope you can see okay, are streets and roads, and then the white rectangles are building footprints. And so you can see the neighborhood context of the communities where, the neighborhoods in Churchill are labeled, and in the surrounding communities, you can see curvy streets and neighborhoods. And then over here is Road I Road. You have bigger white rectangles. That means that those are bigger buildings in more of a commercial area. We also wanted to point out this area that is outlined in purple is Churchill Borough's C1 district that we're talking about. Here's a blow up of that site, an aerial of it. Again, you can see the context with the surrounding roads. You can see, Greensburg over here. Lewin Lane is tree covered, but it's down there. Beulah, the Parkway. And it might interest you to know that when Westinghouse designed this site back in the 50s, they made it look like a locomotive engine because Westinghouse, of course there was Westinghouse Electric, but in addition, another branch of Westinghouse was a manufacturer of air brakes for locomotives. And so I just think that's interesting. The commercial district is made up of about just shy of 150 acres. The smaller is 13, the larger is 133 acres. Now I'd like to move on to panelist introduction.
We have someone who says they're a representative of the owner of the property and they would like to make a short statement. Is that possible? I don't think that's part of the agenda.
That is not part of the agenda. They'd certainly be welcome to submit questions via the Q&A. Absolutely. And we'll see if we can get to that. Jim, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, we'll just continue with this situation and invite them to make their statements before Borough Council.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I'm going to stop screen sharing for a second because I want to I want to show you, just a sec. Or maybe I did, did I stop screen sharing, guys? Here. Okay, are we back to our group view? Okay, so I love the chance to, at this point, introduce our astonishing group of experts who have volunteered to be part of this, and I'm so grateful to you, and thank you very, very much for being part of this. Our panelists tonight are experts in sense of place and placemaking. They all specialize in this, but they come at it in different ways. And we're so honored that they volunteered to participate tonight. And I am absolutely delighted to introduce them, starting with Bill Callahan. Bill is the Western Pennsylvania Community Preservation Coordinator for the Pennsylvania State Historic Preservation Office. The Preservation Office is the bureau within the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission responsible for implementing state and federal historic preservation programs throughout the state. Bill has over 30 years experience working with historic preservation programs in Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Nebraska. He's worked in the private sector for several years, managing businesses in an historic downtown. And I should add that not only Bill's, but all of our panelists' bios are posted on churchillborough.com, so you can read even more about him and the others in that way. Kristen Hughes. Hi, Kristen. She's an associate professor at Carnegie Mellon University School of Design. Her research blends design with public health and placemaking. Specifically, it focuses on how collaborative, community-designed solutions can catalyze social and civic engagement, sort of like tonight's event. Her many community-based projects include Night Out Bakers, Latham Street Commons, and Fitwits. And these are examples of the successes that can happen when all members of the community collaborate on solving the vexing problems that communities face every day. So, you know, it's kind of perfect that she's here because, you know, this design problem is a question that she might introduce in her own class sometime. Kathy McCullum. Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Has over 30 years of experience in community and economic development. She's the principal of McCullum Development Strategies, which specializes in community revitalization, business development, and tourism attraction initiatives for smaller and rural communities. She launched the first Trail Towns initiatives, and I lost my place, connect the communities along the Great Allegheny Passage with the economic impact of growing outdoor recreational market. So those are trail towns, but in addition to that, she's worked on the River Towns initiative. She directed that for the past 10 years. She's directed the River Towns program, which involves bringing dozens of communities bordering the Monongahela River in West Virginia and Pennsylvania along the Allegheny River in greater Pittsburgh area as well. And since the launch of the River Towns program in 2010, the program has leveraged over $20 million in infrastructure improvements, trails, visitor amenities, and business assistance. So River Towns and Trail Towns work with smaller communities, and I'd remind everybody that Churchill has 3,000 residents. It's a smaller community. Mike Moita. Hi, Mike. Mike is vice president and one of the principal architects at Design 3 Architecture located in Monroeville. Mike has been with D3A since 1983, where he oversees a wide range of commercial projects. He's a volunteer member of this Visioning Project Steering Committee. That's made up of 12 citizens, residents of Churchill. Mike has lived in Churchill for nearly 20 years and previously lived nearby in Wilkins, and that's where he grew up. He graduated from Churchill High School and received a Bachelor of Architecture degree from CMU. He's also a musician with the award-winning East Wind Symphonic Band. This, I think, is just a great, great lineup. So with that, I wondered if we could move into our panel discussion. How does that sound? Everybody ready to go?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you all once again. And I am going to start, if I could, with Kristen and Kathy. You guys ready? Each of you specializes in placemaking in different ways. Kathy, you help communities define their best attributes and pursue economic development strategies, that are based on those characteristics and features. And Kristen, you teach design, placemaking, and engaging with communities to help them envision how a new feature or asset should look. So I'd like to ask both of you, how would you define sense of place?
Christian, do you want me to start or would you like to?
You can kick it off.
Okay, happy to. Well, sense of place is really about the relationship between people and their spatial settings. It can be a very personal kind of, and often is a very personal kind of emotional response to those things that you see around you. It's what makes a community in your mind, or a town or a village, distinctive and a place you can care about. Usually it entails the architecture. Often historic architecture can evoke some feelings of sense of place. It's also about the setting. It can be hills and valleys and rivers and trees, or it can be downtown, center of a business district with tall, stately buildings. All of that contributes, as well as parks, open spaces, art, to your sense of place. So I always think of it in terms of take a walk in your mind through Zwickley and then walk on through Lawrenceville. Very different kinds of places. They speak to you in slightly different ways. Or perhaps you're walking down Grant Street in downtown Pittsburgh, for example. The buildings, the setbacks, how you react to the streetscape, the flowers, the smells, the sights, all of that give you a sense of place. It's what, in the usual sense, it's a positive experience. It can be negative if you're in a place that you don't feel perhaps safe or comfortable. But those places that you care most about, that evoke all the positive responses, those are the kind of distinctive places that you want to continue as you move forward in placemaking, so that you don't take away from your sense of personal place and yet add to it. So it's what offers you a sense of belonging to a particular place as well.
Place you care about, yeah. Kristen?
I was gonna say that's a beautiful definition, and just building off of that, when you're trying to understand what sense of place means to you and your community, is really trying to figure out how you first define what community is. So